So, metaphysics is perception, in your opinion. This, to me, is not the case, because I want to explain the structure of perception in my metaphysics. I want to say that there's an external world that existed before anyone was around to perceive it. If the universe started however many billion years ago, about 13 billion years ago, I want to say it existed then without the relying on a perceiver. So I want to make my claims about the structure of perception from a metaphysical point of view. There are many reasons for wanting to do this, because I think perception itself is something that needs to be explored, and it's almost as if we're arguing about the way that it goes. You want to explain the so-called external world in terms of a correlation of perceptions, whereas I want to explain perceptions themselves as being constituted by this external world. And I can only argue on intuition here, but I'm going to hold that the external world existed before we did. So yeah, again, if you say anything about the nature of perception to do with the fact that perceptions themselves are made up of property complexes, then where do these property complexes come from? You're saying that everything's a perception. I understand your broad definition of perception, but what is it a perception of? If it's a perception of the external world, it almost seems like you want to have your cake and eat it, because you're saying that the perception is caused by the external world. But if it's the perceptions that come first, I don't see how this is possible. So, yes, what was I going to say? Oh, empiricism applied to subjective states. I don't know where I stand on that issue. I keep a dream journal myself. It's kind of empirical, I suppose. It is part pseudo-empirical. That doesn't really alter my view of the metaphysical. That just means that well, there's various issues whether consciousness can be studied subjectively or not. Personally, I'm kind of a midway kind of guy. I subscribe to Dennett's method of heterophenomenology, which is a sort of halfway house between those two opposing views. Again, you mentioned something, and you said what exists, or what the law of identity applies to is things that seem directly related to the external world. So I take it you're using "seem" there to imply the illusory external world. But I want to know what that illusory external world consists of, if perceptions are the only constituents of reality, in your opinion. Yes, moral truth. This was kind of a bit where we were talking past each other. I didn't say that morality couldn't be explained in terms of empirical investigation. I just said that a purely descriptive theory such as science can't tell us any normative facts. Science may tell us how morality evolved, but it certainly doesn't give us a good way to run society. It doesn't tell us what's true. Just because something was evolutionary advantageous or whatnot, that doesn't tell us what's true. Personally, my description of morality is very much empirical. I believe that you can apply game theory to both evolutionary and cultural psychology, and things like Nash equilibrium can be applied, and that explains kin relationship and all those other things in evolutionary psychology, in groups and out groups, so on and so forth. But you could also base your complete normative ethics of society on game theory, which is Rawlsian ethics. So my point wasn't that we couldn't understand the origins of morality through scientific methods, or the functionings of morality within a society. My point was more, we can't say what morality should be through a merely descriptive theory. So, neurology again. Let me see. Yeah, what I meant to say was, given that we had all of the knowledge that we could gain about the chemistry of the brain, there may be different ontological interpretations that we could make about what was actually happening to give us a mind. We could eliminate the problem altogether and say, no, mind is just a ridiculous concept. There's no such things as mental states. We could adopt a dualist, a functionalist, an intentionalist, a materialist perspective, and we could all be in agreement about the empirical evidence that we observe. But there'd still be disagreements about the metaphysical constituents of mind. So that was merely a definition to say that even if we knew everything that could be observed, we might not be able to draw any conclusions on a metaphysical level. So, right, missing relationships. You think that my ontology is missing relationships. Well, my answer is kind of twofold on this one. Firstly, I don't believe in intrinsic properties of objects. I only believe in relational properties of objects. That is to say that an intrinsic property of an object would be something that the object has if the rest of the universe disappeared. I'm not sure there are any intrinsic properties of objects at all, but I think that the relational nature of objects is certainly vastly important, and I don't want to deny that most properties are probably relational in nature. So the second point I want to add to that is I don't think I consider things in isolation. There are certain issues that you study in one branch of philosophy, for example, the philosophy of perception, and that can tie into the metaphysics of the philosophy of language, the philosophy of indexicality, the philosophy of metaphysics and epistemology, philosophy of time. It all kind of joins up into a big framework. So, firstly, I don't think that objects themselves are have intrinsic properties, or I'm not too sure that they do. And secondly, I don't really think that any stance in philosophy can be taken in isolation, because they always affect where you can stand on another issue. So yes, philosophy. The last claim you made was about philosophy being empirical. If by empirical you mean a very, very broad definition of having an argument about a particular point of view, and other people being able to judge from their experience of the logic or whatever, which is correct and which isn't, then yeah, I suppose. But you said that there was loads of questions that metaphysics couldn't answer. There was no questions that required metaphysics. I think there are important metaphysical questions. I think there are very important metaphysical questions. What's the mind? I think that's a metaphysical question. Yeah, we could know everything that there is to know about chemistry, but what's the mind? We could know about the brain, but unless we held a mind-brain identity, then we couldn't say we knew anything about the mind. Sorry. What's the structure of experience? What's the fundamental structure of perception? What do the laws of nature do? What's the flow of time? What's the passage of time? What does it mean for a thing to exist? I don't think these are empirical questions. I think they're they're metaphysical questions, we could both explain existence in a way that our scientific theories would not suffer because of, but one of us may be wrong because of metaphysical issues. So it's these kind of things that I believe are metaphysically important. So I hope I've cleared my view up a little bit more, and I guess I'll hear back from you. Peace.